did you ever feel that you were lost, or the self-doubt, okay, I do not know, I'm not good enough?
Freelancing is very unpredictable, right? So now I often pick myself up when I feel lost. So I believe that it's okay to feel lost, but not to remain in that zone for longer time. What has worked for me is shamelessly sharing everywhere. Somewhere or the other, you will definitely get noticed. So there is a trust in universe which is kind of strong, which kind of gets back whenever I drop down. As women, we do have this thing, we feel guilty about everything we do. Just don't feel guilty about anything. You will be able to do what you want to do, and at that point your wisdom will help you decide what is best for that situation. You just don't need to feel guilty about anything.
Hi, Shubhangi. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Charuka. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely pleasure, and I'm always very excited and happy um, to share another South Asian Indian voice, female artist, because we don't get a very, a lot of them, even though we try. And we are very excited, and not only because of that, but I'm also very excited because you are someone who's not like who's doing something very different, which isn't as mainstream as other forms of art. And you have a very interesting journey that I'm very excited to learn more about. I have tons of questions. But first, let's begin with, can you a little bit introduce yourself for anyone who's joining in, and who just want to know a little bit about you first?
Yeah. So I'm Shubhangi Raheja, and I like to be called Shubi for short because I have a really long name and hard to pronounce, especially for people not based in India. So Shubi it is. And I am a 3D artist, and that is also quite a journey how I became a 3D artist. I've been doing that for about 3 to 4 years, but I've been into illustrations, animation, and graphic industry since about a decade now. So I'll quickly tell you about how I got into this. So I was also a little kid who loved to draw and illustrate, and I'm really fortunate that my parents recognized it and they encouraged me. They never
That's
pushed me into. Yeah, that's very rare at our times actually.
I think even today in India.
Yeah, even today, but slightly things are creative professions are being respected now. So slightly people are more open and we are progressing actually. But at that time, there were only three careers: doctors, engineers, and probably teachers. And that's what my parents were. My mom was a teacher and my dad was an engineer. And but they were open enough to let me try whatever I wanted. They put me into music, they put me into art classes and a lot of stuff, and they were giving us chances to explore things out. So I love to draw. I love to draw a lot, and my copies and notebooks were filled with illustrations and cartoons of teachers, sometimes making fun of them, sometimes appreciating them, but they were a mix. And my notebooks used to travel into different sections because they were filled with these illustrations and comics, and I used to get a lot of attention because of that. So what happened is I really got to know at one of the incidents then that since this is being appreciated and I have the power to make people laugh or invoke some emotion through my art, then I decided, yeah, this is something that I wanted to do. And this was like when I was in 11th 12th class, but I was a little scared to tell it to the world. I mean, inside I knew that I am a creative person, but again, when I passed 11th 12th class, my parents, it was, I mean, you don't have to think it through, you just have to give the engineering exam. I mean, in the past, it was so organic that I found myself sitting in, exams for IIT, JE, and all those big names. But that didn't happen. Fortunately for me, that didn't happen, and nobody felt sad about it because they knew something or the other would happen. My parents were confident. I was also confident. So my father found this course called animation around his office space only. And this was one course that was offering a very reliable BSc degree, which meant a lot. And that meant job security and everything. And my father just suggested it, why don't you try that? And I went to that college and I was really happy. It was my zone, because we were studying about art from basics, from anatomy, from drawing, from each and every skill, and that was heaven for me. We were having outdoor classes. They would take us to railway stations, make us sit, and ask us to draw. We were going to parks. It was not a classroom which was locked up, or it was not inside the room, but it was outside. We were visiting places, and there were workshops. There was my favorite was an acting workshop, and the teacher used to come from NSD. And she would just tell us to she would just give us a situation and asked us to act us out. And I was really loving it, and I think that course shaped me as a person. It just killed all my fears, like facing the crowd or talking to people. And I slowly came out of my shell during that course, and that was just wonderful. So the curriculum was beautiful.
It's so nice to hear that in an animation course, you were also being taught acting.
Yeah.
And like, how thoughtful and how liberating is that? That, you know, which is also very unusual, specifically in India, where we're a lot more traditional and theory-based education system,
Yeah.
and where schools and colleges were exploring beyond that, and you know, um, not only thinking of giving you tools in the sense of business and creativity, but also your mindset, like get how to get over those fears, handling fears, like acting. I'm sure it would have helped you, the stage fright, and like sharing your voice, and performance, and it's very refreshing and nice actually.
It was really good. So after that college, I briefly joined an advertising firm as a junior animator, and I enjoyed there also because the culture was really cool. It's a good advertising agency in Delhi now, and it's been acquired by Dentsu. So that time it was small. It had just starting. It was the one agency which recognized the power of advertising on social media at first. So I was able to learn a lot, that how you can use social media to, almost get what you want. So for the brands, for yourself and everything. So I started there, but I was lucky enough to get some freelancing projects in hand at that time only, because my community became from advertising people. And then I thought there were some ups and downs in office, that the flow of projects was not constant. So I thought, okay, let's take a break, and I think I have work for about 3 months, and I'll do only freelancing for that amount of time. And I had really great project, comic books, and whatever the projects my heart was in, I had got those projects. So I quit the job. I was, I think, 21 that time. So I just quit the job, writing an email to my boss. I'm sorry, I won't be able to come from tomorrow onwards because I'm going to freelance. Just this. And I wrote that cute email, and I did not go to the office from next day onwards. But then I was called by HR. Excuse me, you have to do an exit interview. So I went and did exit interview, and they told I had just one thing to say, because I want to freelance. And they said, okay, you can go. So I was really young and naive that time, and I was open to experiment. I had a lot of confidence. And but all this came down a little bit, because after 3 months, I did not have work. I kind of overestimated myself. So that time my sister came in, who is she's a software person, and she's very tech savvy, and she introduced me to this site called freelancer.in 10-11 years back. So at that time it was not so saturated like it is right now. There were not many people, but what I found, there was one good thing, that so many people want animations. There is so much of work. There's so many startups who are asking for videos, and I did not have that in my mind, that animation is, because in India 10 years back, nobody was using animation for their own benefits. It was just a medium of entertainment, probably on television, and there weren't many people who could deliver it on time and things like that. So there, I tried hard. I used to go and bid on the projects, but my sister just paved a path. And I think I am a person, if you tell me that you got to do this, I just put my heart and soul. And I think that, yes, I'm a yes person in life. So I said yes to that. And after like a couple of weeks, I got my first whiteboard animation video.
Okay. Yeah. Quite became quite popular. Every other company was, you know, the same vibe, and they had these all these softwares doing it and all of that.
It was just starting that time 10 years back, because it was quick to execute whiteboard videos. And so I did my first one at that time. And since then, I've been uploading the works all over social media, whatever I do. And I till now I get work through that work also.
Oh God. You know, I it's so interesting that I read one of your posts, which was your journey of doing a job, quitting your job, taking a freelance, and then you mentioned making clay toys, and then coming to Blender. And I was like, when before I actually had like a real community, and I think for a very long time I never felt I had a community in the sense of who I could speak to, understand. I had people around me, but not the people who were I was people around me was not were not artists, creatives. I was born into, like, my family comes from business class, or everybody's into nobody was in the creative field around me. I am the only person in my family who chose this path. And also culturally, I think I think it's gotten so much better, thank goodness. But at that point, even, like, 10 years ago, even a couple of years ago also, it wasn't, there wasn't a huge amount of artists, creatives coming together. And I used to feel like, I would move from one place to another. So I would, like, okay, let me try this, I want to become this, and then I figure it out. I'm like, oh my God, I don't like this. What next? Okay, let me try this. And then if I wouldn't do that, I used to feel like so confused. There was no rule book. There's no path, like, okay, like, if you're doing an engineering, these are the exams you need to take, this is a good job, this is a, all of that. Even though I don't think that stays true anymore, but let's say there's a blueprint. But there's huge amount of self-doubt that comes when you are moving from one point to another and figuring out. And specifically, if you do not have a community who normalizes that for you, like, yeah, we all go through that, we all have that, we all figuring it out. Not yesterday, not today, we will always keep doing that. In No matter how much ahead are we in our careers, how much time we put in, the evolution, this is a part of that evolution. And when I read your post, and I was like, you know what, this is so strange that as we all go through these phases, like, where we know, like, we've been doing experimenting, and I think our phases of experimentation are very different. We all have different stages in how we experiment, but we all feel so alone, and we feel like, okay, there's some did you ever feel okay, my question, did you ever feel um did you ever feel that you were lost, or the self doubt, okay, I do not know, I'm not good enough, or I'm not able to stick to one thing, or all of those, did you have those fears while you were doing all of these things and moving and experimenting, or do you have them today?
There are phases. Sometimes I do have, because freelancing is very unpredictable, right? One day, actually, I always, want good and big projects, and whenever they are finished, you are lost again. What next? We always have this question. So, in the initial time where you talk about the clay thing that happened, the initial phases of freelancing, when I was, like I told you, 21, I was not taking so much pressure, because I was just playing around. I was playing around with my stuff. And I think when there is the playfulness in the work that an artist is creating, that really instantly hits with the buyer or the viewer or the art appreciator or
Because you're
whoever.
not trying to push too hard, you're just focusing on what you're creating.
Yeah, you're just focusing on enjoying yourself through the process. And that's how clay came into my life, because I was thoroughly enjoying it. And at that time, I think I had sold hundreds of toys. I had started this little business. People would send me pictures of their good moments and precious moments, and I would just make the toy figures, put a backdrop, and send them back. And I made, I don't know, I still remember I'd sent all these toys to different parts of India and even abroad. So it was going really well, but I had to stop it because my mom had been she was not keeping well, and we couldn't expose her to dust and stuff, so that had to stop. Coming back to your question, feeling lost, that always comes briefly when you're trying to decide what you're going to do next. Whenever I sit and journal or talk to myself only, I always think that I should be inspired by life at all times, right? So you have so many things going on, the podcast, the editorial, and you're going to take workshops. I was reading that. So you know that something is happening, you're looking forward to something, and we can't just rely on probably one thing like selling paintings in your case, or getting based client work in my case, but we are parallelly doing a lot of stuff, and that keeps us going. So if that thing is there, you wouldn't feel lost. But at middle of my I told you I did not feel this when I started off because I was in the play mode. Middle of my career, I used to feel that a lot because I was not aware that we can channelize our energy into these different modes, right? But now I am again, because I'm doing a lot of stuff. So now I often pick myself up when I feel lost. So I believe that it's okay to feel lost, but not to remain in that zone for longer time. Just to get back on your toes.
And when you come from this energy, I think there's a huge shift because I did feel like that for quite some time. And I think that was because now I have a lot of artists around me. And I see them. It's normal for me to see one person doing 10 different things. Like, like you, like for me, I have a million things. Like, I do not have one thing. And it makes sense to me because for my creative energies, I'm not a person who can work on one constant project like for a long time. I need that switch in my life to, channel my thoughts. And to that, it is to build a sustainable career as a creative. You need to make sure that you're creating different forms of offerings, and you're creating projects, and you have all of that. But when I had those I did not have artists or creatives around me. I saw stable businesses, and even though that perception is wrong today, I know that because I wasn't in deep of it. Today I run a business. I know that for people it looks like one good shell, but I know the million things that happen, on the back end. But again, I saw, being like, let's say if there was an engineer, we had those examples in front of us where it always showed that you were putting all your energy into a stability, and you were like, doing one thing, and it was always appreciated. Oh, this person did this job for 30 years, 40 years. And there was this kind of a thought process, and I would always question, in the sense that my fear would always come up. And it was that, I don't know if this is the one. Let's say I always had this, like people around me, they had that one thing. And I think that is also, I think, evolution of time. That's how things happened in our parents' time, before that. But things have changed for all of us, not only artists. I think for all of us. Today, I think I realize when I see other people, not only artists, but our business, my own business, my partner's business, my brother's business, so all of us. And how important it is to keep experimenting, and there's no arriving point, and that you will evolve, and your interest will evolve, and your one interest will take you from another and then another. But it's got normalized today. At that point, I always felt I was the odd one, because I didn't have it together. I didn't have it together at that point. I didn't know that. Oh, and I think the most terrible part and the hardest part, even today, believe me, when people ask me what I do, I don't have an answer. Because I'm like, I'm not a person who has like a one title or a one, yeah, like I am this, but I'm also this, and I also do this, and I have that also. So it's still because the traditional norms are so different, And things have gotten way different today.
That's true. That's so true. This reminds of a very funny thing that happened recently. So somebody next door just moved in. So my husband is also a 3D animator. So what we do is like we create 3D animation for different companies. So that uncle just asked politely, so what do you guys do? So we told that we create 3D animations video. So what he could only hear was video. So he said, "Oh, we are getting a marriage, a wedding in our family next month. Would you like to take that up as a project?" And we just smiled and okay, we'll see you next time. We didn't have the capacity to explain them. So he was an old uncle, so that's why. But we were as polite as we could be, and then we thought whenever somebody asked, we're going to say just one word: advertising. Advertising. Let them guess, because even if we say animation, people just get
They don't
uh,
understand.
they don't understand. So we are going to say advertising.
So you know what's funny? I was seeing one of your videos, and I hadn't read your post at that point. And I was seeing one of your YouTube videos where you were doing the blender thing. And when you were, when you took the sphere and you were moving and all of that, I was like, this looks like. So I use a lot of Adobe. I am very. I mean, I was working in digital, a lot of digital before, like, past 2 years. Um, and I was like, this feels like she's playing with clay. The way you were moving, the nose, and then you were adding the eyes, and then you were, you know, reshaping I all this while I was just saying to myself, oh my god, this looks like a digital version of clay. Because I remember I took up a workshop a couple of years ago, which was on Rhino and what is something along with it, three software. That was Maya and Maya and Rhino, and I hated them. Absolutely. I can never do a 1 plus 1 in my life. And it had, like, that had a lot of calculation. But when I saw your video, I was like, oh my God, this is so interesting. And the keyword that came to my mind was clay. And when I read your post, I was like, did you think, like, how did you get into like 3D animation, and then from illustration, then clay? Is there a journey? Did you find any connection?
So it has been very organic for me, but I would like to share about how did this happen for my partner. So my husband, he wanted to do this all along his life. He wanted to become a 3D person, and but he had to exert a lot. For 7 years he was doing something that he did not wish for, because he had a few commitments, and that time market was not ready. Even when he started, he was in a job, but he started freelancing with me. That time also we were doing this. That was this explainer video phase of that whiteboard and 2D graphics. But he had struggled like 7 years to get to 3D. And then when we got married, he took 2 years off from his job and he wanted to learn 3D. And we were simultaneously doing freelancing projects. But finally, it was his thing that he has arrived now after so long. So he started doing, he was really patient all these years across. He started taking, slowly, he started taking freelancing 3D project. He kept on, learning himself from YouTube. So he was working on a different software called Cinema 4D, which is brilliant and which is a little expensive, because Blender is free to use for everyone. But Cinema 4D has its own set of tools, which are very good for motion graphic videos and stuff like that. So he started doing that, and he started doing client work while I was doing children's illustrations and stuff like that. So he only suggested me that it was COVID 2020 when we both were sick and we weren't able to work so aggressively. We had time in our hands, but we couldn't stress our bodies so much because we were sick. So he only suggested, you have so much, you have a full library of 2D illustration. Why don't you just try and convert them into 3D? Go to YouTube, there's so many resources there. And you must check out the software called Blender, which is free to use for all. So I got a task, and since I am a yes person, I said, okay, I do it. So I slowly started converting my 2D illustrations into 3D. And this led to this project of mine called the Jar Worlds, which is an NFT projects, and this kind of was a turning point for my career.
And I think you've it's not been a really long time for you being doing the 3D animation thing, right?
Yeah, it's been 3 years.
And you've been doing great. Like, you the NFT market is really, getting mainstream, and it's in the
Yeah,
sense of, I think, not NFT in the sense, but 3D. I think since the
yeah,
3D, those billboards have taken place,
yeah,
in different parts of the world, and the way it is evolving, I think it's catching a lot more attention. I particularly, of course, I love the series of the Angels ones, the Rest, the Breathe, but I really also enjoyed, specifically in the context of how you were doing these recent, like the Hindi songs with the
okay,
dancing characters.
yeah,
And I think also typically how we enjoy social media, and was very
yeah.
fresh and nice. And can you take us through your journey of? You also mentioned something very important, that you see very few women in the industry where you are right now. So let's talk a little bit about that. Of how has it been, you exploring the NFT world, the challenges, the visibility, opportunities, and you being a woman in it?
So, I think as an artist, I am in a constant habit of creating personal projects. That happened when I was working in advertising agency, because I had a lot of time in my hands where there was a gap between projects. So I am every time, like you mentioned, the dance series is going on. So I love to play with my work, something or the other. However busy I am with my client work, I am into, and I try to be really disciplined with one of these things, because I think that has helped me, come a long way as an artist, because I'm in constant mode of creating, and creating with fun. I make sure it is not the strenuous creating where you are in pressure.
And I think with client work, this is the success formula, because sometimes you may not get the projects that you wish to create. And
Yeah,
I think, it's the balance between listening to your mind and your heart. Your mind is the project that you do with client,
yeah,
where you a lot of times you have to be practical, you have to take up work, you have to pay the bills.
yeah,
But also, if you don't have a heart that's making you live, you really can't do anything with the mind. So it's like
yeah,
having those projects that spark interest
yeah,
and excite you, and then also keeping the ball going with other projects that may
yeah,
not that they are not bad, but they may not
yeah.
be the best. Oh my god. Or I think having creative freedom.
Yeah, actually, even if you are not even given the what do you call it, the freedom to choose your own colors in a client project.
Yeah, because they have brand colors. Yeah,
And
because
colors,
this is
and
someone's
fonts.
project.
Yeah, you can't, you don't get that freedom. So about the challenges that you were asking in NFT was, yeah, visibility is one thing that sometimes I do feel that the NFT project, rather than having, the art is not so valued, but your marketing of the full project, or your how much you talk about it, is more important. Sometimes I do feel that, but if your art is good, somebody is going to relate one day or the other to that particular piece. That is also there. So the challenges that I faced, it was very easy to me to get into NFTs, because there was this artist who had posted online. At that time, these platforms were invite based, so you can just go up one day and decide that you want to be an NFT artist. This is when it just started, and at the end of 2020 and the start of 2021, where these platforms were a little rigid. You needed that invite. So one artist who has made it big in NFTs in India had put up a post that I'm looking for some works that, and I would give you invite if I like your work. So I had just pasted the link of one of my personal projects, which was just I was learning 3D at that time. So this was the first or the second project where I made these two cute planters with mustache, and that time was I was actually gardening. I was actually gardening that time, and I had recently learned the names. Okay, this is the jade plant, this is the spider plant. So so I thought I'll just and I had written the caption as, even in COVID, your plants are your friends, because you can't actually meet your friends. So that really clicked with him, and he really loved it. And he wrote a mail back that, this project is really good, and please have this invite. I would like you to join as an NFT artist on this platform.
You had no intention of being an NFT artist before that. You had it at back of your mind, but it wasn't like, okay, I'm working towards being an NFT artist.
Yeah, I had not asked anybody to give me an invite because but I had heard that something is happening for artists, but since it was not so big at that time, slowly, I couldn't understand also the technology at first. It is very overwhelming at first. So I was not trying so hard, but when I read his post, I was actually praying that I should get that invite, because it was good. And until that one week of him answering me back, I had researched how many dollars he's already made. So it was actually, and it's really good, Charuka, because I told you I am in the mode of creating always, and we put so much of content for free on so many platforms, and we never think that we can create value, and we can actually sell these things and generate income for ourselves. As an artist, I think we sometimes feel guilty also when we are earning money.
It's the whole structure that's been formed for ages, and I think
Yeah,
now I think artists have not gotten this attention for a really long time that we've started to
yeah,
get now, and the platforms and
yeah,
opportunities.
yeah,
And so those whole thoughts of, like, the starving artists, or like, at the end
yeah,
of the day, artists are also like, we are professionals and we are business, and there's a lot of things
yeah,
that goes into it that have not been spoken before, that are now being spoken about.
yeah. So coming back to that, when he gave me an invite, I started to figure out. Of course, Siddharth, my husband, also helped me because it was too technical, and it involved making wallet on the blockchain. So
Yeah.
we both sat and we YouTubed it. So I converted one of my 2D illustration, which was again based on the COVID concept. I had made these jars because I thought that time I was doing up my living room again, and I was making a small corner, reading corner for myself. And I had illustrated that there would be, warm lighting and cozy vibes and everything, scented candles and stuff like that, and a warm hot drink in my hand. I was imagining that I could create a zone like this for home. So I just sketched it inside a jar, that
Okay.
this is a closed space,
Your own,
and
yeah, own
that's how,
little world.
yeah, a world inside a closed space, and that is made up of glass. So I converted that into 3D, and I uploaded on a platform, and I almost forgot about it, because what you need to do in order to get your work sell is to create awareness about your work projects, enter into the community, and keep talking about that. But I did not do so much. But I used to occasionally visit Twitter, because a lot of things for NFTs, Twitter is the main platform. So I went to Twitter, and 1 or 2 months had passed by since I had uploaded, but suddenly I saw this somebody's post that they're looking to buy an NFT, and I think it was Diwali time or something. And I just made up a little story about how these lights of the jar can remind you of, the good vibes that we have in Diwali. So that person turned out to be an Indian American. He had shifted, and he could relate it so much, and I think he instantly bought that artwork. And that time I got about 80,000 in INR for that
Oh my
little jar.
goodness. You
So,
must have been in shock. Like, is this for real? Because,
I was flat on the
no,
floor.
yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
like you don't know, like, if this is something that can happen for you specifically
yeah,
as an artist. Um,
yeah,
it's like you're always told that, okay, you can do this, either it sells for low, or like,
yeah,
it's also like a really good affirmation of what could be possible if you sometimes, like, even though I say, like, we, like you said, today a lot of things has become about constantly showing up for your work. It is true. And I think it's not true only today, it's also before, like even before social media. There was traditional advertising, there was print advertising, like people have to constantly put themselves out there.
yeah,
But the affirmation that when you put something, even if accidentally, like maybe you just parked it, like since you got an invite and you were not actively really promoting it, but when you share your thoughts, and you never know that who matches, who who comes together with those thoughts.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So even in the past, if you say that people as artists, they were. So I was just seeing this Japanese artist Kusama, who's got red hair, who does that polka dot thing. So she was struggling so much to create her voice when she moved from Japan to New York. She was, trying to get to exhibit in a lot of galleries so that people come. So it has been, whenever you create something as an artist now, when the creation is done, it's not the end. Unless and until you put it out there and make the people see it, evoke emotions out of people, out of it, it is your responsibility to, that is the end of journey. And that's how I feel that, now I'm going to go to my next project. It's not the completion until it gets to the viewer who wants it. So that has always been the journey of
But I
artists.
think that is also something that artists truly struggle with. And I think it isn't because of we're creative people, it's also because traditionally, A, we were not taught this mindset. B, we were also not taught these skills. I think if you see artists and people from the Gen Z then generation, I was speaking to today to someone. I was batch recording episodes today, and Lily. So she's an artist based out of the US, and she's 22, and she has built a brilliant business for her. And I think what's great is that they come from this mindset and the access to tools that they know that creating is a part of the job, but also putting it out there, constantly promoting it, telling people about it, sharing your thoughts is also, so they don't think like, oh no, I want to put my energy. I think I still feel that
Yeah,
friction because I also spend a lot of
the
time on it.
generation. Yeah,
Yeah. Like, but
yeah,
even though like I consider myself like I'm very tech savvy, I'm very out there in the sense of I share my
yeah,
work and all of that, but also it's not very natural. Like it's a skill I think I've
yeah,
built over the time. Like I think we all have. Like we've familiarized ourselves with, okay, this is something part of our jobs that we need to constantly do. But with the younger generation today, it's not like they have to train themselves. They come with it.
yeah, absolutely. Because we were the ones. I remember when I had started doing working as an artist, Instagram was not there. How do you expect us to naturally imbibe the principles of Instagram in our work module? Because it was not there. And also, Charuka, I would say that, depending on one platform is not something, because remember, many people they were generating income through TikTok, and it just got vanished. It's just that you have to put your work, and then you have to be, even if you meet someone in real, then also be, you have to be the face of your work. You can't be, talking and not mentioning your work for very long, because this has to be there with us.
Okay. Also, what happened after you sold that artwork? Did you feel like, okay, this was okay, one off? Because a lot of times the other thing of being an artist is like, oh, somebody must have bought it. Oh, if this was, she was just my friend, she might just have
Yeah,
supported me. Or
yeah,
this was my family. Oh, this person would have just, we always find reasons to say, okay, this was just one off, or like undermine the thought. What was it for you? Did you think, oh my god, this could become something I could really make a living out of, this could be my profession? Or like, oh my god, I don't know, if I've sold one, I don't know if I can ever sell another one, or should I do this? What did you do about it?
so that time I was really happy that this happened. I did not think much that this could be a career, because at inside me I was just creating only. It was a channel where I could express. And so what happened is, when your first sale happened, you come in a lot of eyes. Then you're supposed to take out the second one, because you can't lose this time, because everybody is watching you. Even if you take out your second one, then people are watching you. So that was immediately, like next week only, I made the another jar, and it was peak of winters, and I had done a snow and that kind of a setup. So that one, I think that sold even faster than the last one, because people were watching me. So I did about 18 of them till now,
Wow,
and 15 of them are sold, and
so
three of
nice.
them are.
But tell me something, like this is a lot of artists have a lot of inhibitions when it comes to NFTs, and I'm so proud of you because I've seen success. Like we've had a couple of artists from NFT world also on the podcast, but a lot of them have always been from other parts of the world. It's not been I've not seen someone with your story, or at least I've not had the pleasure to interact with from your something like like your story, someone who's just come out of the blue, experimented with it, and found a way. A lot of artists have concerns and questions about NFTs because I think I always feel myself, and I always recommend that we should be open to other explorations as tools, as medias, and see if our work can, if it comes natural, if or we want to experiment or we want to try. But I think something really terrible that's taking away people's interest is the NFT spam on Instagram. That's made everybody like a mess. The comments that come in. So there's a huge scam going on. I don't know if that NFT world, I don't know if you guys know. So there's a huge spam going online, um, where artists receive this message that there's this person who pretends to be a collector, and they message you that, oh, do you make NFTs of your work? I'm interested in collecting an NFT. So they basically, this is a very big scam that a lot of artists have fallen trap into. I think the fear of because there's not so much knowledge and clarity, there's a lot of fear when it comes to it, and fear of being scammed, and something like scammers like these coming into play, taking advantage of knowledge, a lack of knowledge. Um, so I think that, and the other thing also, viability. I think something I truly feel artists are always exploring ways that they can transform their work into, let's say, if I make a painting, how can I monetize this? Let's say, of course, I'm selling my painting, but then can I also make a print, or can I also convert it into, let's say, um, a screen print or a wallpaper, or so, like, we as artists, these are viable options for us. NFT, on the contrary, is something that people feel they don't know if it's, how do they navigate? How do they find collectors? How do they sell? How do they upload? How do they price? What has been your biggest struggle so far? Let's first talk about that.
uh, Before that, if you may allow, Charuka, I would like to address the spam and the insecurity and the fear regarding it. So I would see, whenever anything involves money, there is, and which is online, there is a little risk that comes. If you see Paytm, if you see Google Pay, if you see the method of their transactions, and that is web 2, okay, when you're transacting money through all these platforms, net
These
banking
are
and
web
everything.
twos.
Web 2 and Web 3 is when it involves crypto or NFTs and everything like that, which is happening on a blockchain, right? So for Web 2 also, if you see, if you don't have the correct knowledge, you are bound to get cheated, or there are some messages which come on Paytm like, I'm your friend Swati and I require this money, please do transfer. These can happen in Web 2 also. And similarly, these things can happen in Web 3 also. In fact, I'll tell you a very this example which happened with me last month only. I was about to get scammed in NFTs because there was this one person who came through me through Twitter, and we artists do get literally sold out when somebody is praising our work, like without they're constantly saying you're so good and that. I tend to have a very meaningful conversation with that person regarding NFTs and the future and everything. And and they kept on mentioning, I need to buy your art, I need to buy your art. So I said, okay, go ahead. I wouldn't pay much heed to it, and the normal conversation was going on. Ultimately, one day they're like, I've just decided that I want to buy these two art pieces of yours, and you can just what you do is you just transfer this amount of money in my wallet, and then I'll buy. This was so shady. Every time a collector is buying from you, they would never ask anything from you except your artwork. They would never, it's like real world, that somebody would say something so nonsense in order to scam you. You just have to be aware. But I was also falling into the trap because I thought that person was so smart. What he had done is, so there is a Twitter profile and the foundation profile. Foundation profile is where you list your artworks to be sold, right? So the Twitter profile he had for this person and the foundation profile showed that they have collected a lot of works from different artists. That means they've spent a lot of money. So they were looking very genuine at that time. So I have a mentor who I was working with it on another NFT projects. I just copy pasted this conversation and sent to them, and they just, because he is a little senior to me in this all this, he just caught this thing in an instant, that this is a, this is a scam. But I was, because I was in a deep and meaningful conversation with that person about NFT, I couldn't. I was okay, okay. It's just little amount that I need to transfer. These risks can happen, but you just have to be very careful. Nobody on earth will ask you money before buying your stuff. That really doesn't happen. So I wanted to address this point because this is a very nice platform for me to say this, because it was happening with me also, and it can happen in other source of transaction only. You can just protect yourself by being more aware and being more paying attention. I think that's just required. So my biggest struggles in NFTs or generally as an artist has been you know uh, getting my work noticed. I think this everybody faces. You create something out of your heart which is beautiful, but how do you get it to people? Instagram has its own weird algorithm, and this is, so what has worked for me is shamelessly sharing everywhere. Somewhere or the other, you will definitely get noticed.
I love
So,
the idea you saying shamelessly, because I think this is a problem that we all struggle with, where we feel like, oh my god, am I pushing too much? Am I being too salesy? What am I doing this? Am I like? There's so many questions that we put on ourselves that become
yeah.
that block.
Yeah. So, in fact, I was telling about this artist who has made it big as an NFT artist. He had written the post, sorry, I'm going to share this a lot this month because I'm going to have a solo exhibition. So, I'm already apologizing that you're going to see a lot of my art posts this month. This is the attitude. I was feeling so sad that this big guy, he's feeling, I wrote, we can't get enough of what you're doing. We have to have a mindset like that no, it's okay, this is our space. Why are we scared to claim it? Why are we so scared? It's is it like, it's not, you're not spamming anybody, you're just showing what you created. And why is there a guilt attached to it? I don't understand. There shouldn't be.
And I think this is the difference, like, when companies are promoting their products and services, and we never think like, as long as they're not irritatingly cold calling you and like,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah,
please stop this.
yeah,
But otherwise we see billboards and we see ads and we see stories and we hear like, okay, this discount and that. And I think with art is again the whole idea that um, it has to be sacred, it has to be
yeah,
organic, and it has to be like, oh, you it's like a perfect marriage, and like, all of this will happen on its own. And no, it won't. your
you
your
have
work
to.
will not walk on its own and go find people and
Yeah,
tell you, okay, this is your market. You have to
yeah,
figure it out yourself,
yeah,
and you will make mistakes and we'll all go wrong, and there will be moments of highs and lows. I remember my first high when I had a sold out collection, and I couldn't believe it. I truly couldn't believe it, because I didn't know if this could sell. I didn't know if it could sell for this. And I didn't completely believe that I could sell out something. And it's, but I think the part was that at that point I never felt that I was promoting something. It felt like I had made something that I was so happy and proud about that it didn't even strike me. But now I think with the pressure, I think something I think growth something with growth is when you start growing, uh, those questions maybe tend to pop up more, because before, I think I never had a fear anyone was listening. I was like,
yeah.
It's okay, nobody's listening, and they were listening. And today I think in back of the mind a lot of times it's sparked, oh my god, these people are listening. Am I being too
Yeah,
pushy? Am I not,
yeah.
I think it's strange, but I think it's that's on been on my mind.
So I had this struggle that is sometimes I see sometimes because this algorithm is so weird. There are numbers which actually tell that nobody is seeing your post except your five dear friends and your mother and the people you love. It's just showing that only seven people are watching your post, and that is actually very disheartening because you know that you are earning through this. You know that your career, actually your finances depend on this, because currently I've started getting serious clients through Instagram also. So that's why that came into my mind that I will not stick to one platform. I will go on YouTube. I'll try LinkedIn, I'll try Twitter. So that's when I thought of making videos about my content, and I also considered it as a another chance to play with the camera. I wanted to keep a playful feeling. Even the tutorials I make, I try to not to be so preachy.
How do you deal with fear as an artist? Do you have like, do you feel like these jitters sometimes you're doing something new, unknown, or there's this quiet space sometimes in between, and like it's like every day is every day you don't know what it could be now. Like you have to really keep constantly pushing yourself.
Yeah. So I stick to this thing, which is not to stay in a specific emotion or something for too long. I mentioned it earlier also. If for say I'm very insecure that I don't have a next project what to work on and I have to pay my bills, I'll again start something. I know if I start working on a personal project, first of all, I'm going to channelize my negative energy. Secondly, you never know what that personal. I've had that experience of NFTs myself. So there is a trust in universe which is kind of strong, which kind of gets back whenever I drop down. So I believe in picking myself up very quickly, even in the highs of high, like you told. When I first sold my NFT, third day I was again creating the next piece because I did not want to celebrate it too much, and I have a chance to leave all that attention away. I didn't want to let it go. So I thought that in Hindi when we say loha garam hai to hathauda maar do, that you are getting the attention, make the second. So I really try. I don't want to sound like a saint or somebody who is like कि खुशी में खुशी मत हो और दुखी में परेशान मत हो, but ज़्यादा देर के लिए मत हो. मतलब try to hop on to something else very quickly. So that has worked personally for me.
But something I want to add to this is also, like you said, you sold your first and then you also sold a lot of it, which is one part of it. When I had a similar experience, I felt the pressure. And I think this is something that I feel like we need to remind ourselves. When I sold my first sold out thing, I felt like I was feeling that there were so many eyes coming on me. There was a lot of people who were sharing my work and all of that, and I felt like I didn't believe it, and then it was happening, and I was like, okay, now the fear. And I think when you work too much, I mean, I had been working for quite a few years and really, wanting that, and then when you get it, you're like, I don't want to lose it. And I was like, how do I make most of it? I was putting so much pressure on myself. How do I make the most? And I took it too personally. How do I make most of it? And should I make more work? Should I do this? Should I do that? And um, and I think this is something that we speak a lot even in our community. Like I had that high, and it definitely I needed to have a few lows, in the sense of when you reach a peak, once that's going to die out, it'll take a few slow days, and that does not mean that you've missed your chance. Oh, I didn't make. And for that time, I think I felt that, because it takes time for you to create a body of work and then promote that body of work, and then all of that. And it didn't happen the way that it happened for the previous time, and I felt like, okay, maybe my work is not good enough, or am I not doing enough with that? But also realizing that your projects will pick up even if you keep promoting, and it doesn't have to do with, like, if you've had one big high, it does not mean that you have to have all of that. I think the lows have its own taste. They give you more learnings and period to explore. And if you make the most of those, you have several highs together, great. Have a look. It's like, it's never like this. It's like this and this and this. It's like a curve. But there's also a lot of pressure when you feel like, okay, this has made work. This is working. I should make the most of it. I don't know if I'm going to have this again or not.
Yeah, that's so true. This happened with me also because there was a time which we call in NFTs, which is called bear market, where nobody's buying anything, and that doesn't happen. So initially, I sold quite a lot of them, but there was a lull and silence after long, and that really screwed my mind. But I thought I can't be in this situation for too long. I have to get out of this zone. So that's why I said I had client work, I had things that I was going on. I had a project that did not involve. I was rebuilding my home, and it was something that needed attention that time. So I think we can't be all the time stressing on one thing. And I think whenever we chase something, that goes even farther. So I, I think we should give some amount of breaks to everything, because not leave the collection as in hanging in between, but it for us to refill our creative cups, we need something. We cannot always be, in the constant habit of creating, but we need some activities or something which can, refill our cup so that we can give again.
Right, right. That's true. My goodness, it's been an hour. I'm so glad we spoke, and I'm so glad.
I did not realize that. Oh
Yes,
God.
yes. So thank you so much. I have a rapid fire for you. I think we'll bring you back again. But there've been so many amazing things that you've said, and I'm just so glad we did this. Okay. So are you ready for a rapid fire?
Yeah.
What inspired you to become an artist?
The fact that I could play all my life.
I love that. Okay. What is the most important lesson you've learned throughout your career?
I've shared a lot of my lessons, but the most important lesson is to keep creating and have a balance between enjoying and not pressurizing yourself too much. It'll take time, but you'll get to reach that balance where you're not stressing yourself, you're having fun, and you're creating also.
One of the best advice you've received from another artist.
So recently in NFTs, which I'm going to share this because this was shared with a really big artist who has been doing good. They told me that never allow somebody on your behalf to mint your work. You should be, because the whole concept of NFT is that you should be the sole owner of your artwork till the end. So never give that power to somebody else that they are doing this for you. You have to always be as an individual.
Oh wow, that's a great advice for anyone who's looking to get into NFTs. Even I did NFTs actually. Um, I just wanted to. I'm a very curious person. I wanted to figure out how things work. And I was like, I need to figure out what this thing is about, how it works, what's a blockchain, how to upload your work. And I remember I did it on. I still have a wallet in my phone. I still have it. I think I should link back it on my website. I haven't done that for a very long time.
Yeah, you must, because eventually everybody will be joining this platform and it's going to go bigger from here.
I don't know. I don't know. Was I on Foundation? I don't remember. I know it was a free minting because I know a few platforms also charge.
Yeah,
Um, I don't remember which one was it.
okay. We should revive
Okay,
it back then.
what's it? Yeah, I will. I will ask you next. Next time I'm stuck.
Sure.
Okay. What is your most? What is one of your most memorable moment as an artist? Like a day that you felt like, oh wow, something, any memory that you keep very close to your heart.
I got a email which said that I saw your video and you mentioned about creating and how creating artwork has helped you out. So that person has shared their sketches with me, and they just wrote down that they were feeling suicidal and very depressed at one point of time, and my videos helped them to come out of it. So it was a really detailed mail, and I showed it to my mom, as if this is the biggest achievement. I think I was made to be an artist because of this, I guess. So I'm really happy that time this happened.
Okay. What do you think is the most important thing for women artists to remember, particularly?
For women artists, it would be don't feel guilty about unnecessary stuff. As women, we do have this thing, we feel guilty about everything we do. Just don't feel guilty about anything. You'll be able to do what you want to do, and at that point your wisdom will help you decide what is best for that situation. You just don't need to feel guilty about anything.
I love that advice. Lovely. Okay. What do you think is the biggest challenge as NFT artists today, particularly?
It is not impossible, but it is hard to create that voice regarding your project, to create the awareness, to create your own community who are your true fans who are going to support you. So I think this is not impossible, but it is hard. It will require a consistency from your side, but it is not impossible.
Okay. This or that. Creativity or perfectionism? Which is more important to you?
Hands down creativity.
A morning person or a night person? What is your zone of creation?
My zone of creation depends on the time zone I'm working with. So it is very flexible. Either sometimes it's early mornings or nights. So it's not fixed. It changes very rapidly.
Okay. Music or silence? Which is your preference while creating?
Uh, Both actually. Music and silence both.
What kind of music do you hear? I love this question. I keep asking people now.
I do listen to a lot of Sufi stuff. I'm a very big
Oh,
Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan
oh,
fan.
I've been listening to a lot of that in the studio
That
also.
really, all my nights when I'm working, it has to be playing in background because there is something about it which helps me go on. The
You have
clappings.
to share your playlist with me then.
Oh, done. I'll do that. I'll share my favorite song of Nusrat Fateh that I've just discovered, which is a very
Yeah.
old song, but I've discovered
Okay.
it recently, and that's in my playlist.
You have to share with me.
Sure.
Okay. Inspiration or hard work? What do you think is the key to a successful career?
Both, both, of course. You can't do anything without hard work. And I told you, I've always prayed that I should be. What is the next thing that I'm going to be inspired with? So if that dies down, you wouldn't get the itching to create something.
The curiosity needs to remain, but
Exactly.
it needs to have that constant hard work to make it,
Yeah.
go forward.
So both of the things.
Right. One last question. One piece of advice you want to give to people who are listening to this episode. What can they take away from this episode that you really want them to?
I would like to say, please listen to the full episodes because I've dropped a lot of wisdom in some part about NFTs, about this. So this is something that not just this episode. Try to, as I told earlier, also that when we are creating, we need to fill our cup also. So we need to be good listeners. You also said that you started listening to a lot of podcasts, and you started. Then you also started your own podcast, so we have to take in a lot of stuff also in order to bring out a lot of stuff. So be open, become a yes person. I think being a yes person has worked out really well for me.
Wow. Yeah, you have to, like, I think we all can. Um, I think the fear of experiment. I think once we remove the fear of failure, a lot
Yeah,
more experimentation comes in. At least that's how it's worked for me.
yeah,
Like I'm like a lot of I've started like, so we're opening a gallery. I have no experience of running a gallery. I have no experience of running a physical space. I never knew how to do a podcast. I never knew how to be an artist. I never knew how to sell my work. I never knew a lot of a bunch of things that I'm doing today, but
yeah,
also because I did them out of curiosity,
yeah,
and it didn't bring a baggage of I'm like, I don't know how it's going to work out, but this is why I'm doing this. I wanted to open this space because I had a spare space in my studio, and I was like, a creative space like this would really do in my, in Outer, in my hometown, because we don't have it. And I would love to own a space where I can, give other artists a platform, whatever that may be. And what we're already doing, we could expand it. So even though there are fears, but the purpose becomes so high that I'm like, Eve, What's the worst? I know in this process, I'm going to learn and I'm going to be able to support more people.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And actually, while you're experimenting, I think you should be very fluid. You can't have one goal in your mind. So, for example, if you're planning to have a podcast, while doing so, you'll get another great opportunity. You'll find something that clicks you. So, as artists, we need to be fluid. We can't be rigid about goals and everything.
Yeah, it's like just go with the flow and see where
Yeah.
it takes you and figure out how you want to go next.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shubhangi. Thank you so much for your time. I'm very, very proud of the work that you're doing, and I only hope that you go further and do bigger. Before I let you go, can you tell people where they can find you if you have anything upcoming that you want to share so that they can support you, we can support you?
Wow. Thank you, Charuka. It has been great talking to you. I did not realize that we've been talking, and this is the first time we're talking. We did not even have an intro call or anything. We just started. It's been great knowing you. It's been great knowing a traditional artist because I am only surrounded by digital ones, but I've got a lot of insights from you having a gallery space and all that is really exciting. So, yeah, about my next stuff, you can always contact me on my Instagram. It's a very funny handle. I really like that name. It's Shooby Dooby Doo. You can find me there. And I'm also upcoming with a lot of YouTube video content which I'm making. It will be about 3D art, it will be about NFTs and being an artist in general. And the jars are going on. I'm going to collaborate with people on the jars and maybe with some good brands. So that is good. Yeah. So jar is getting bigger now.
Yeah, it's became it's you're creating your own universe within
Yes,
that
I
jar.
would want to. I have a 10 years timeline for the jars. I want to actually, have a real life jar experience for people having like
Oh
human
wow.
size jars and they're able to enter. So currently, I'm planning to have that VR kind of experience where you wear that Oculus gadget and then you're able to travel through the jar world. So I'm in the process of making that, and I'll be posting about these things on my Instagram, so you can find me there.
Lovely. I can't wait for you to do this. Whenever you do, whatever we can contribute, however we can help, let me know and I'm sure
Sure.
you'll do it. And I can't wait to visit that.
Thank you, Charuka. Thank you. I had a really nice time speaking to you. Take care.